Hello F11 members and welcome back to part 2 of the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 73, February 2018. On the screen in front of you, you have an image of the Jurassic Coast, which I shot last week. It had been raining all day, but we went on down anyways because the forecast promised a glimmer of light later in the afternoon, and we were rewarded for our faith and had some absolutely gorgeous light. And this is the picture that I've chosen to process because I just love the combination of the light on the foreground and the dappled light on the cliffs beyond, and that really stormy, dramatic sky. You can watch a video on this shoot, the video blog in this very issue of the F11 Photography magazine. It took 3 attempts to make this picture, and the video tells the story from behind the lens. But what I'd like to do now is talk you through the post-production on this picture, but with particular reference to how I use Photoshop's actions. So here on the screen in front of me, if I go to Window now, here. Sorry, that's the image in Lightroom. Let's go back into Photoshop here. If I go Window and Arrange and show 2 up vertical, what I've got is 2 different versions of the image, 2 different conversions of the same raw image. One that has been optimized for the darker areas of the picture, for the shadow region, for the highlights, and one that has been optimized for the shadows. And I'm going to combine them now. So essentially what I want to do is take this image here, the darker one, drop it on top of the lighter one, select the area of the darker image that I want to see, apply a layer mask so that I see only that area of the image, allowing me to see through to the brighter area of the bottom image underneath. And I've done this many times in previous post-production video tutorials, but as I said, we're going to pay particular attention to Photoshop actions. So if I bring my actions palette into the frame now, what you can see here are these actions which I have made, which are things that I do very often. It just speeds up the workflow. So you can see here I've got one called Flatten Layers. I've got one called Feather, which basically applies different levels of feathering on a selection. One for saving the image, and then another one called Select, Cut and Paste, which I use when making layer masks. So let's just show you how an action is created in the first place. So what I want to do with this image here is I have a very sensitive mouse which annoyingly adjusts the magnification. Anyways, that's an aside. So just to illustrate how we create actions in the first place, what I want to do is just make a demo action. And first thing we do is we make a set. Okay, create a new set down here. So if I click on that, these are what's called sets here. Select, cut and paste, or in my case processed, or in my case feather, and then you have actions within that set. So I'm going to create a set here, just call it, for the purposes of this demo, just call it demo. Click on OK. Now I want to create an action to go within that set. So if I click on down here, it says create new action. Click on that. What do I want to call this action? Well, what I'm going to do is select all of the image and then copy it and then close that image down. So I'm just going to call it Select, Cut and Close. Click on Record. Now you can see this red button down here is activating, which So everything I do now to this image is being recorded. So make sure that image is highlighted there. Come up here to select all of the image, and then select, I want to come along here, edit, and I'm going to copy that. And now I just want to close that. So if I click on close here, that's been closed down. And now I'm going to stop recording. And now that selection has been made, so that if I want to do the same again, instead of going through those drop-down menus on the top bar, I can just play that action. And that's what I've done up here with these actions here. So I've got one just called paste. Really simple thing to do, but I find it so easy to have these actions just here in this palette. It really speeds up what I do. So I'm going to click on paste, and because I copied that selection of that brighter image, I'm now just going to paste it on top like that. Just by clicking the play button, it plays that action. Okay, so the next thing I do is I'm going to bring my tools into the screen area here and select Lasso. So let's just consider with layer masks what I'm doing. If I bring my layers window tab in as well, you can see I've got the brighter image pasted on top of the darker image. So what do I want to do is select the area of this, the brighter image that I want to see, and I'm going to use the Lasso tool to do that. So it's by definition the darker areas of this foreground part of the image here. So I'm just going to select them and come along here. Now I've made normally what I do to create a layer mask now is feather that selection. You go up here, select and modify feather, and I would then select my radius here, and in this case I'd want something like a radius of round about, I'd say 150 pixels, maybe 100, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go cancel that because I've made my own action to do that. Once I've made that selection and feathered it, I would then come up here to the layer tab on the top of the screen here, select layer mask and ask it to reveal my selection. Again, I'm not going to do that because I've made an action to do that, and it's called Mask 100. If I click on the drop down, you can see what it does. It essentially makes that selection. So actually I'm going to use Mask 150 here to give it a nice soft edge there, and I'm going to play that selection. And it's done that for me, and I think that's worked really well. Actually, I'm just going to fine-tune that edge of that selection here, just using my paintbrush here. Click on the layer mask, and now I want to paint white. There's a bit of a halo effect just coming in here. So if I paint white, adjust my opacity up to about 26% there, just increase the size of my brush a touch there. Just make sure that halo effect isn't too evident there by using this paintbrush. Okay, that's dealt with that, and now I've applied my layer mask. I'm fairly happy with all that, so I can actually now use another action I've created here. It's called flatten. Again, just really easy thing to do, but having it as an action just helps to speed things up. Play that. It's flattened my image here. Another thing I'm going to do is just select the area of the water here. Again, using my lasso brush. Not worrying about being too accurate here because I'm going to feather this selection. And again, I have a action for doing that. Feather 500 right down to feather 100. That's referring to the pixel radius that will give me the soft edge to my selection. So again, I'm going to go for a pretty soft feather of 150, play that. And that's feathered that selection. Now if I come up, image, adjustments, curves, bring my curves palette in here. I'm just going to adjust if I clip on show clipping now and just adjust my black point, it'll show me if I go too far where I start clipping shadows. So I can go just to about there and click on and off preview. Just bring a bit of density into that area and put a touch of contrast in there by introducing an S shape to that tone curve just for that area of the selection. Play it. That's a little bit too heavy-handed actually. Subtlety is the name of the game here. Okay, still too heavy-handed I think, so I'll come up to there. That's better. Okay, click on OK. And again, I have another action for just deselecting there. I know there are shortcuts to these things, but I just find these actions so useful there. Play that action. Okay, and I'm pretty much done with that picture now. So the one thing I want to do here, just magnify up, Command plus, is use my healing brush here. And I'm just going to remove this white. It's actually a stone, but it looks like litter, so I'm taking that out there. And I'm now happy with this picture and I'm ready to export it. So the way I can do that is just clicking on Processed. And this is another action that I've made which will save the picture to various different locations. Okay, so it flattens the image, I've already done that. It converts it to profile from Pro Photo RGB to Adobe 98, and it makes it into an 8-bit depth image, and it saves it as a TIFF in 2 different locations within our network system, so that this work in progress is saved. So if I now click on that, it plays the action, and so instead of having to manually save that picture in 2 different locations, the action does it for me. So that is Photoshop Actions. Really useful thing to get your head around. Create your own actions and get used to using them. It'll really speed up your workflow. Okay, so please do send in your suggestions about what you would like to see in future post-production video tutorials. Thank you.